House Billah Ministry Quran Rajim Bismillah Rahman Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. I will read out the message of the President of Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Dr. Arif Alvi. Quote, 74 years ago, on 27th October 1947, India deployed troops to Srinagar in an unlawful intervention and illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. The reign of terror and oppression that started on that day continues unabated. Successive Indian governments during the course of 7 decades have subjected the people of Kashmir to worst forms of state terrorism. The fascist regime of BJP under the Hindutva ideology has started persecuting Muslims and other minority communities. Moreover, India took illegal and unilateral actions on 5th August 2019 to deprive the Kashmiri people of their economic, political and land rights and change the demography of the IIOJK. Pakistan would not accept these illegal actions as they are in clear violation of several UNSC resolutions and the international law. India's use of state terrorism against Kashmiris, including extrajudicial killings, fake encounters, cordon and search operations, custodial torture, enforced disappearances, incarceration of Kashmiri leadership, use of pellet guns and destruction of houses has not succeeded in breaking the will of the Kashmiris. Kashmiri people remain steadfast and have written with their blood a glorious chapter of commitment, courage and sacrifice in the annals of history. Contrary to Indian claims, Jammu and Kashmir is an internationally recognized dispute that has been on the agenda of the United Nations Security Council for over 7 decades. Pakistan calls upon the international community to take practical steps to hold India accountable for its gross and systematic human rights violations in IIOJK. Peaceful resolution of the Jammu and Kashmir dispute in accordance with the relevant UNSC resolutions and wishes of the Kashmiri people is the only way to ensure peace in the region. Pakistan pays tribute to the resilience and indomitable spirit of the brave Kashmiris. India's illegal occupation of Jammu and Kashmir will definitely come to an end. The entire Pakistani nation will continue to stand with our Kashmiri brothers and sisters in their struggle for self-determination in accordance with the relevant UNSC resolutions. Unquote. Now I will read out the message of the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Mr. Imran Khan, on this occasion. Quote, Pakistan and millions of Kashmiris observe the Kashmir Black Day every 27 October to condemn the beginning of the illegal occupation of the parts of the state of Jammu and Kashmir by India. It is also a day to commemorate the countless sacrifices Kashmiris have made and continue to make as they resist the inhuman occupation and subjugation by India against their will. India's illegal occupation was meant to suppress the legitimate aspirations of the Kashmiri people to freely determine their future, but even after 7 decades of brutal rule by Indian occupation forces, the will of the Kashmiris remains strong. We salute Kashmiri men, women and children for their resolve, courage and determination. Kashmiris are an inspiration for all freedom-loving people in the world. The long outstanding Jammu and Kashmir dispute has been on the agenda of the UN Security Council since January 1948. It is an internationally recognized dispute as affirmed by numerous UNSC resolutions. Having accepted the UNSC resolutions and despite the solemn commitments made by the Government of India to the Security Council, Pakistan, other states and to the people of Jammu and Kashmir, Indian unilateral action of 5th August 2019 shows its sheer disregard of international law, global community, aspirations of Kashmiri people, let alone the UNSC resolutions. Unfortunately, today's India is ruled by the RSS ideology, whose extremist worldview has no place for Muslims or other minorities. This has led the ruling BJP to resort to more brutal ways for suppression of Kashmiri voices being raised to attain their well-deserved right of self-determination. It has been 815 days since India imposed military siege, media blackout and other restrictions along with unilateral and illegal action of 5th August 2019. The human suffering in the shape of extrajudicial killings, in fake encounters, rape and other gross violations of human rights is unspeakable. The introduction of domicile laws by the Indian government to change the demography of the valley shows Indian intention to change the ground realities regarding this internationally recognized dispute. Pakistan in the past 2 years have firmly opposed such Indian actions and unequivocally supported the rights of oppressed Kashmiris. Pakistan has raised the Jammu and Kashmir issue at every forum, including the UN, OIC and bilaterally with important world leaders and capitals. Significantly, for the first time in 55 years, the Jammu and Kashmir dispute has been deliberated upon by the UN Security Council. UNSC has thrice taken up the dispute, thereby debunking the false Indian claim that it is an internal matter of India. Today, there is an increased scrutiny and censure of India by the international community, including the UN and other human rights bodies. But it is not enough. The dossier on Indians' human rights violations in IIOJK that Pakistan unveiled last month should be an eye-opener for the world. It has irrefutable evidence of India's rogue behavior. The UN Security Council has the responsibility to take steps to ensure the implementation of its resolutions, enabling the people of Jammu and Kashmir to realize their right to self-determination. A just and peaceful settlement of the Jammu and Kashmir dispute in accordance with Security Council resolutions and the wishes of the Kashmiri people is indispensable for durable peace and stability in South Asia. I reassure my Kashmiri brothers and sisters that Pakistan will continue to provide all possible support and stand together, shoulder to shoulder with them till the realization of the legitimate and inalienable right to self-determination. I also urge the international community to play its role in pressing India to stop forthwith its human rights violations in IIOJK and let the Kashmiris decide their own future in accordance with UNSC resolutions. Unquote.
And I read the message by the Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Mukdum Shah Mahmood Qureshi, on Kashmir Black Day. I quote, 27th October 1947 is one of the darkest days for Kashmiris. The illegal Indian occupation of Jammu and Kashmir, which began on that smothered day, the legitimate aspirations of the Kashmiri people to determine their own destiny. Bitter legacy of this act of betrayal continues to weigh heavily on the conscience of humanity. The people of illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir have endured endless atrocities, but the occupation forces' ruthlessness has not blunted the resolve of Kashmiris to throw off India's yoke. The incumbent BJP RSS combine in India has intensified cruelty against Kashmiris. The Kashmiri people remain under siege, their leadership incarcerated, and their youth targeted in staged cordon and search operations. But the multi-layered lockdowns and human rights violations cannot dampen the Kashmiris' indigenous struggle in which thousands of martyrs have rendered the ultimate sacrifice. India has not only reneged on its obligations to the people of Jammu and Kashmir, but also thumbed its nose at multilateralism by backtracking on the UNSC resolutions. The unilateral and illegal actions of August 5, 2019 are in blatant violation of UNSC resolutions and international law. Efforts to effect a demographic change and perpetuate Indian illegal occupation in the disputed territory are cynical attempts by India to break the will of the Kashmiris and silence them. The dream of stability and peace in South Asia and the world at large will remain elusive until the Jammu and Kashmir dispute is resolved in accordance with the relevant resolutions of the United Nations and aspirations of the Kashmiri people. India must realize that it cannot suppress the freedom struggle of the Kashmiris by the indiscriminate use of brute force. In fact, the senseless Indian operation has only steeled the resolve of Kashmiri people to stand firm in their just struggle. Pakistan has been highlighting Indians' aggression and warning the world about ever-growing intolerance in India. Under the incumbent government, India has not only demonized the Muslim, but is also subjecting other minorities and scheduled castes to discrimination. Indian government's manifest hatred for Muslims and other non-Hindu minorities is testimony enough of its unimaginably inhuman conduct in IIJK. Pakistan has repeatedly provided irrefutable evidence of Indian atrocities and nefarious designs to the world, the latest being the dossier on Indian human rights violations in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, released on September 12, 2021. The world must stop the human catastrophe unfolding in J&K. The international civil society and media are also obligated to highlight the plight of defenseless Kashmiris. Under the leadership of the Prime Minister Imran Khan, we in Pakistan are determined to extend complete support to our Kashmiri brothers and sisters and stand in solidarity with them. We will continue to do so until the final resolution of the dispute in line with the United Nations Security Council resolutions and as per the aspirations of the Kashmiri people. End of the quote.